In episode number 403 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover the DC Universe Rewards Program.
We also have a somewhat return of Swamp Thing as Season 1 re-airs on the CW.
No comic book highlight this week, but we do have what's new on Netflix for May 2020.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am your almighty Emperor Palpa Kelli.
And I am Ninja Boy Daniel.
Ninja Boy.
Just like Batman.
I guess, except
like a terrible Batman.
He's a man and not a boy.
All right, it's like Damian Wayne.
Yeah,
he's like a super ninja boy, that fucking guy.
he's more like a ninja man, realistically. But for those of you joining us for the very first time, the way we format the show is first we go over some news covering all those topics we just mentioned. We have our Patreon shoutouts, which are thank you to everyone who makes the show possible. And we wrap it up with our Brocat block, which is what happened with Daniel and I this week.
Kicking things off with the trend that continues, that is paid video on demand, Warner Brothers has decided to go straight to VOD with the latest Scooby-Doo movie titled Scoob.
Via a WB press release, they said, quote, "In response to the unprecedented demand for high-quality family entertainment in the home, Warner Brothers will make its upcoming animated feature film, Scoob, available for both premium video on demand, PVOD, and for premium digital ownership in the US and Canada on May 15th, end quote.
So they saw that troll money and said, let's also try to go for that. What do they call it? The high quality family entertainment, the demand for it. I am going to watch it, but I don't know if I'm going to pay fucking $20. I love Scooby-Doo, and I think Scoob looks awesome, but $20, maybe I'm of that generation where that's too expensive for me, but I want to know if other brokettes are maybe paying that $20 premium.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Leo's not old enough yet, right? But is this a video that a movie that you would consider taking him to go see?
Yeah, it is. And I know that's more than $20.
Exactly. That is more than, by the time you get the popcorn and everything too, we can pop the popcorn here. And Daniel's like, no, it's not movie theater popcorn.
Yeah, it's true.
Because you mentioned it 4 times.
Yeah,
4 times this week.
I really do miss it. And then it doesn't help that fucking Omni also brought it up on Discord. And I'm like, I do miss that goddamn popcorn too. God.
Anyway, regardless, this is an opportunity. Yeah, it's $20, but then we get to watch it, and Leo would get to watch it as well, and you can share that experience with him without having to take him to the theater where he's just going to get up and want to run around through the seats.
Have you seen anything from Scoob yourself?
I wasn't allowed to watch the show when I was younger because my mom thought it was too scary for me. I did see the live action movie, and I feel like I really liked that when I was younger because I went with my best friend's family, and I think I saw it in theaters. So I do remember really, really liking that. But, you know, even when I was older, I tried to watch the show and just never really got into it.
Did you watch the older classic cartoons or one of the newer ones?
Yeah, I watched some of them, but it was like, I remember one about the Loch Ness Monster.
Yes,
but then it was just like a robot or something, but then there was also really the Loch Ness Monster.
Right. That's how a lot of those were. And honestly, a lot of the Scooby-Doo cartoons, that's when they started doing this thing where, the monsters are real. And that was like the way they modernized it and changed it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the classic cartoons always had it where there was always someone behind the mask and there was never any real supernatural element to it. And it wasn't until the cartoons in the 90s where they started really going into, and that was like the big surprise, right? No, what if these things are real and they do come across these? So that's where they got a little more creative with the stories. Although I do still like it's just an old guy in a fucking costume.
Well, and that's what's, not that I watched them, right? But it was kind of cool because I did see someone have a comment once or a tweet, or I don't even remember what it was. And it was like, the most important thing Scooby-Doo taught me is that the only thing we have to fear are ourselves. And I was like, whoa!
We're the true monsters.
Pretty much.
I'm excited for Scoob. And I hope that the old Scooby-Doo cartoons come on HBO Max since that's all Warner Brothers owned, but we'll find out over time. But yes, I am excited for Scoob. I'm glad it's still going on. I'm happy for Scooby-Doo fans out there, and it's a property that's clearly stood the test of time.
I hope this does really well for them too. They're like, yeah, fuck it, just release it here, and we'll see if it makes that Trolls money also.
Something that is benefiting a lot of subscribers that are on the DC Universe app, also owned by WB, a rewards program has been rolled out to subscribers, and you can redeem these points towards a free month of the service, t-shirts, posters, pins, and more.
We do have a DC press release which reads, quote, "Fans can earn tokens and level up simply by doing what they already love. Whether it's subscribers finishing a DC digital comic, watching an entire DC movie or TV episode, or even non-subscribers and subscribers alike interacting with each other on the DC Universe community boards, there are various opportunities for fans to accumulate tokens that can be redeemed for rewards," end quote.
Interested fans are encouraged to visit the My DC section of DC Universe and then clicking or tapping on rewards in the menu to find out ways to earn tokens. It is pretty simple, and people figured out ways to quickly earn them up.
Of course.
I'm sure there will be limits, and they will eventually kind of balance out the reward system so that you're not gaming it to just get a bunch of free months of DC Universe. But I think it is a nice bonus, and it's not something that was keeping us from, well, if they don't offer more, then I'm unsubscribing. So to me, it's all gravy. It's just another cool thing to do. It encourages me to maybe check out a couple of more different TV shows. I definitely don't use it for the digital comics. That's not how Kelly and I roll. It's just not for us.
It's not how we roll.
But if it means me checking out another DC movie or another DC show, and they'll give me a couple of coins that I can redeem for really cool stuff, and the pins honestly look awesome, then why not? It is a win-win for everyone.
I definitely agree with that. It wasn't something that had to be put in there, but I think it's a great way to keep people engaged. So maybe it'll be something like, okay, you can only earn, 3 tokens from watching things, 3 tokens from reading things. Definitely a way to try and broaden those horizons. But I definitely think that, one, it could bring more people into the service, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, I've been thinking about it, but now I can get something more out of it besides what they have. But it also maybe will help people find things that will keep them there that they may not have thought of, right? So we get it and we just watch the TV show. And I'm not saying we're going to flip on over to digital comics, but maybe you try it one day and you're like, you know what? Maybe this was a little easier than I thought it was. Rather than go to the bookshelf and dig it out, Daniel's like, this would never happen, Kelly. I'm just saying it might get other people into different things. Okay, there, I'm done.
Let me know if you've already redeemed these towards anything. And I'm curious to see what people are getting with these rewards. I know if I accumulate enough, I would just throw it onto the month. That's always how I kind of play. Maybe I'll get the pins. I don't know. There were some really cool ones. But by the time I get enough tokens to actually redeem them towards anything, I think all the pins and stuff will be way different than what's up there now. So a free month of DC Universe, why not?
Some more streaming service news for a show that I did not expect to ever see again. Adventure Time creator Pendleton Ward and comedian Duncan Trussell will be reuniting for 4 one-hour Adventure Time specials for HBO Max.
That is huge.
That's
very
insane.
Huge news. The first 2 specials to Adventure Time Distant Lands are set to stream this year. I kind of thought it was going to be on Netflix or on the Cartoon Network app, but for it to be on HBO Max is pretty awesome. And I know they already have a deal set up with Cartoon Network, but that's giving even more value to HBO Max subscribers, which I didn't view as a service for children or kids, but I guess this is more of a teen property anyway, right?
Definitely. What this says to me and them choosing HBO, because I think if they were going to market this towards children or towards teens, it definitely would have been on the Netflix, the Hulu, something else along those lines. What this says to me is that they understand that their main viewership are now all adults, or pretty much adults. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully it would be a little more adult. I mean, there were a lot of themes in that show where you could still point it out and be like, oh yeah, they really could have done this here. And obviously they didn't because it was for kids. Maybe now that it's on HBO Max, they're saying, yeah, fuck it. They're all adults. Like, let's tell the real story of what's really in our heads of all these characters now that they're grown up and they're dealing with grown-up situations.
I do also think that it's smart that there's 4 1-hour specials, but they're not all coming out at the same time. And I think the fact that it is an hour long, and normally these cartoons were 15 minutes long, I think that is more than enough to keep the Adventure Time watcher or viewer on the HBO Max service to hold off until the next special. And even this, I don't think is a huge anchor for the service anyway, but it is a nice bonus to, all right, well, now I have 2 specials to look forward to later this year, 2 more early or mid next year as well.
The first special will focus on BMO. I love me some BMO.
The second special will be on Marceline and Princess Bubblegum, so there'll definitely be some LGBTQ themes in that one.
The third will focus on Peppermint Butler.
That'll be a fucked up episode.
Pet butt. And the fourth will be about Finn and Jake.
That's a good way to end it off on the brotherhood between the 2 characters.
Pet butt's going to be crazy.
Is that the one you're most looking forward to?
I don't know. I do love BMO. I think he's so sweet. I really hope we get some Ice King moments with his lady. I guess they were already gone though, right? They like healed each other and disappeared into the night.
Yeah, I think their story is basically finished.
No,
so
we can start it again.
You're like, just a 1-hour special and then being happy.
But one of the things that I love about BMO's stories, have at least how they've been in the past, is you see so many different characters within them. So he's just strolling around like doing his thing, and like the world's on fire around him, and you're seeing these different characters solve these problems. And BMO's just this happy-go-lucky little guy. Of course, Bubblegum and Marceline, they've really dived more into their relationship through the comic and a little bit more in the show. But I think this is a great opportunity, again, for it not being a service for children to be like, yeah, they're together. Like, 100%, this is what it is. Here's how their relationship works. They're not just really close friends.
Right.
Like they kind of have been. And I mean, we know, and we've seen in the comic book, right? We obviously know they're together. But in the show, it's never really been solidified that that's 100% what it is.
Yeah, and I think by you saying that, okay, well, it's not for kids, so we can show these things. When this aired, in case you're hearing this like 5-10 years later, when this aired, showing gay themes in a cartoon was a no-no. Like that would get you angry letters on the network. It's something the network avoided. And in many ways, they still are very touchy on and don't really show on screen. So that's what Kelli is saying, that where now they can actually tell that story instead of just hint at it and say, you guys can connect the dots if you want. And now they're like, well, now we can actually show the full story and not necessarily that it's not for kids now, but that at this point we're at a time where they can show those things.
Yes, thank you for speaking to our future selves.
I know this. I just don't want that shit to bite me in the ass in a decade.
Right. No, totally got it. Totally got you. Peppermint Butler. I don't know. He's so crazy, and he's just hanging out with the devil, just putting curses on people. I don't know, whatever he does. And then, of course, Finn and Jake got to round it out with those 2. See where they are now.
Something else re-arriving on the little screen is with the CW, they have acquired the rights to air season 1 of Swamp Thing, according to Variety.
For those of you who don't know or didn't remember, Swamp Thing was canceled within season 1's airing due to budgetary reasons following tax disagreements.
Unfortunately, Warner Brothers had to take on a lot of that loss with Swamp Thing, which is why they had to completely cut it out. But as to why Swamp Thing is coming on the CW, and a lot of people are saying, well, this means there's a season 2 coming.
No.
And what's turning out is a lot of people are speculating that this move is due to the lighter fall content for the network that came about because of the COVID-19 production shutdowns. So new episodes are not being produced or weren't being produced during the shutdown. So that officially put all of that on the back burner. You could either re-air things that are already on the network, or you can provide something that's fresh to the CW, like Swamp Thing.
I don't think it's a bad move. I really enjoyed Swamp Thing. It's definitely not your typical CW superhero show, but maybe it'll pull in a different kind of audience, and maybe it'll get more eyes on it to where we can get another season made.
That was kind of a graphic show too, so I'm curious if they're going to edit it at all for the CW.
I feel like the last episode especially, because there was a lot of murder.
Plus that hook through the guy's mouth from that murderer. Like, and
I'm a murderer. Give that man an Oscar, please. We need to rewatch that.
I'm personally not holding out any hope that we're going to get a season 2. I think they have moved on from it. If we do, great, but that is not at all what I expect out of this airing. And I'm sure they will look at stats and look at the actual numbers when it releases. But if this becomes a CW show completely, let's assume that there's a season 2. I myself will be very nervous about that because I know how the CW superhero shows run. And I won't say comic book ones because I do like Riverdale, but some of the other ones like Flash, Arrow, they completely lost it season, 2 or 3 and forward, where it just got absolutely insane. And they had their formula they needed to, I guess, fill or whatever, but it just became stuff that wasn't for us anymore.
But while we did like Swamp Thing, not everybody did.
That's right. I was able to find a little something that we haven't done in months. And we have today's Nerd Rage Reaction!
I know you do the sounds, but they're still my favorite part.
To new listeners, what is Nerd Rage Reaction?
It is a comment on the internet about a story from someone who's just not happy. It's just wrong. It's rubbing them the wrong way, and they let the world know so we can let you know and we can all laugh about it.
That's right. We're not going to give you their name, but you can, I guess, try to Google it, but know that this is this week's Nerd Rage Reaction.
Quote, I only watched 2 or 3 episodes of this show, and it's a pity how boring it is. Also, I don't know why it's called Swamp Thing when the story is clearly about her. Swampy is barely in there, and we got a lot about her backstory and nothing at all about the Swamp Thing mythos. End quote. Oh, wait.
End quote.
I need my mac and cheese.
Mom. Look, I do agree. It's not at all about the Swamp Thing mythos. And I would agree with them completely. Like, all right, they might have a valid opinion if they had seen the entire fucking season. But they themselves said they watched 2 or 3 episodes. Of course, they think the whole show is about the main character, about Abby.
Because Swamp Thing didn't even show up until like halfway through.
Right. Holland wasn't even dead yet. By I think episode 4 maybe is when we actually got all Swamp Thing. I don't remember, but you didn't get a ton of Swamp Thing at the beginning, but you do get tons as the season progresses. And yeah, the mythos isn't there, and I think that's probably the biggest disappointment from the show. You don't outright see the red, the rot, and the green. You see the rot and it's around, but it's not as world building or as mythic as the comics were. But to me, I still really enjoyed the show. Maybe not that final episode that had all those budget cuts, but if you have only seen 2 episodes, you can't say that show's only about her because we've seen the whole thing and it's not just about Abby.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. In any instance, if you don't watch the whole thing, you can't really say, well, this is the way it is. You can say it just wasn't for me. Okay, cool. You didn't like the pacing. You didn't like how dark it was. All right, fine, move on. You didn't like that. What's his name, man? Man, I miss him. I forgot about him.
Which the main, not the mayor, but
Diet Frank Underwood.
Yeah, right.
He was villain. Pretty cool. Yes, I still really enjoyed the show. I know you hated the actor who played Alec Holland. Yeah. He just rubbed you the wrong way. But Swamp Thing's costume was so cool. And I'm not even mad that they didn't really dive into the mythos because I feel like that was planned for the second season. Like, okay, here's this really cool, mysterious story. People don't really know what's going on. Let's tell it. And then let's use the second season to really dive into this and explain everything that happened. Because then it's scarier if you don't know. If you're just like, oh, that's just the way the world works. Now it's not as scary as these vines coming and like just killing people and that murderer man coming back.
I was hoping for a little bit of Animal Man, but
again, season 2 or 3.
Not on the CW.
Not on the let's just take a moment to think. What would season 2 of Swamp Thing on the CW be?
It would be about, the villain you were talking about, Diet Frank Underwood. He would be in a love triangle, and it would be about.
Well, he was already
is
in
he-
a love triangle.
Yeah, but that was like an adult one.
Oh,
it would be
okay,
a teen one.
Oh, okay,
Where
perfect.
all of them want to be with the same person, and some people are upset, but then one episode they're with this girl, and then the other episode he's with that girl, but it's the CW, so one of them gets murdered, and then now it's a whole mystery. And Swamp Thing's gonna help.
How would Swamp Thing's costume change?
You'd have a beanie, first off.
Some swamp dreads.
What do you think the CW would be? Oh, Swamp Thing would be gay. So there's,
that-
or at
is
least
that what
bi.
would happen?
He would be bi.
Okay, so he wouldn't be with Abby anymore. He would just...
Abby and the murderer rock guy. He would come back, and there would be a little. Or no,
a
it
love
ended with
triangle between them.
It ended with Floronic Man, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. Because this guy understands him, and he's like him, but we'll find out that what he needs.
So they
is,
would be together.
Right, well, at first, and then he
Okay.
would eventually go back to Abby because that's what he needs, even though she's different than he is. His heart is telling him that that's what he needs.
Would they go back in time at any point? Because I feel like they should.
I mean, if the Flash is involved, I guess. Is this a crossover now?
Of course, it has to cross over with all the shows.
All right. I mean, if Ezra Miller shows up too, why
Oh
not?
my god.
It can happen.
I can't handle it. That sounds about right. Oh wait, can he show up in Riverdale?
Not yet, because we haven't seen that massive crossover, but why not?
But it would be
I don't
perfect.
I also don't want to ruin Riverdale, though. I think it's fine as is. Riverdale's doing good.
All
Keep doing
right,
your thing,
all right.
Riverdale.
I'm excited for Swamp Thing on the CW.
Over to some local convention news. Orlando's MegaCon has canceled and, well, they're calling it rescheduled. Has rescheduled its June 4th through 7th con to October 30th through the 31st. I'm just going to tell you how it is. It got canceled. And they're trying to hold another little convention on Halloween. And if it's anything like the one we went to in the fall, like 4 or 5 years ago, it's not going to be anything like the main MegaCon. And as a comic, I go for the artists and the writers. I won't like going to that little version of it.
What they've said, it'll be very limited. I think they said only 25,000 people as opposed to their normal 40,000+ that are able to go. And my understanding is if you had already purchased a ticket for MegaCon, you automatically have a ticket for this convention. So it doesn't have to be a VIP. It can be a regular one. People were posting questions like, oh, well, what if you don't have enough spaces for everyone who purchased tickets? And they responded with, we have enough spaces for everyone who purchased tickets. So if you haven't purchased it, you're interested in going, there will definitely be a limited number of tickets because those that have already been sold are automatically transferred over.
And if you were getting a table at this current year's, they're saying that you can get one for the October one. If you have the option, honestly, and you're one of those people that was going to be on the summer one, try to skip the October one because you're not going to make nearly as much money. They're already saying that there's not going to be as more than 25,000 people at the convention anyway. See if you can get it for next year's, which will be better planned. It'll have better guests because how many guests are not going to show up due to fear of maybe catching the virus?
And how many more are going to show up next year because they're like, yeah, I missed out on that money last year. I got to make it up and just do as much as I can.
Go for next year's if you want. For MegaCon, 2021's is going to take place March 18th through the 21st. But as Kelly and I have said, MegaCon hasn't really been the best ever since they got bought up. So take that as you will. But if you're just going for the cosplayers, I think it's still a solid convention.
While convention cancellations due to this pandemic are so heartbreaking and difficult, something amazing that has come out of this is the Bink Foundation, which has raised over $950,000 in grants to 637 comic shops.
A press release reads, quote, an enormous community effort led by Creators for Comics, Jim Lee, DC Comics, and Oni Lion Forge Publishing Group raised over $950,000 to help struggling retailers who have temporarily shuttered their doors due to the ongoing national health emergency, end quote.
That is absolutely amazing. When they announced this, I don't think we ever foresaw it getting as big as it did.
Those Jim Lee drawings and everyone else that's jumped on, like Raphael Albuquerque, he did a Phantasm one that is amazing. All pieces that I could never really afford, but some people that can are winning those pieces. They're getting amazing artwork and they're helping local comic book shops. I can speak from experience. I did get some help from Bink and I posted up that picture, tagged Jim Lee. the comic shop I work for, the owner did get some help as well from Bink, and all of those little things do help in the overall loss that was April. No matter, I think it would be, it would take a lot more to make up for what happened in April, but these things help lessen that blow, and every little bit of that helps. So it's still amazing to me how the industry rallied around this cause, and customers also rallied on helping out their local comic shops, all in the effort of anyone that's saying comics are dead, the industry's dying. It's like, if that were the case, you'd be seeing these things drop left and right. And the original analysis was that half the comic shops out there were not going to make it through this thing. Thanks to things like Bink and to customers and to the overall support that they're receiving, that number is way less than what they expected. It's nowhere near half. And yes, some comic shops are shutting down and calling it quits. But if you read Bleeding Cool, a lot of them are like owners that were already not doing well. And they were saying, well, this was already kind of the final straw. And it's just a matter of, running a business, or a matter of not being in the best circumstances, regardless, whether it's location or the economy in your town. But this is still a huge thing, and definitely a big thing that I'm definitely grateful for.
Absolutely. And I've said it once, I'll say it a million times more. I am just so overwhelmed by the amount of people who want to help other people throughout all of this. I think it's really allowed us to see what's possible in helping each other, sticking your neck out for somebody else, and really just saying, okay, I'm in a position where I can help you. Let me do that. And I really hope that carries forward even after this, as things start to reopen and get back to normal, that we don't ever lose sight of A, if somebody helped you, or B, if you were able to help someone, and that feeling that was around that, so you can continue to pay it forward.
And the Bing Foundation is not done. I believe they will break the $1 million mark.
Amazing.
The Jim Lee drawings are still coming through. He's doing, I think, he said 60, right? 60 days, 60 drawings. That's, I think on Jim Lee alone, you could almost hit $1 million. His pieces are incredible, and there's some big bidders out there.
Switching back over to DC Universe, according to them, digital readership on the streaming service increased 35% between February and April.
For April, the most read titles through DC Universe were Sean Gordon Murphy's Alternate Universe Batman Tale, White Knight #1, and Scott Snyder and Jock's The Batman Who Laughs #1, which focuses on the villain who debuted in Dark Knight's Metal.
I think this makes perfect sense. People didn't have comic shops that were open. They didn't have new books that were coming out. It was a great opportunity and service for them to say, yeah, let me check out something new. Let me try and fill in some of this boredom.
I think this does speak to the quality that is White Knight #1. I know you and I enjoyed this alternate take on Batman. If you haven't read White Knight, the trade paperback is out now at your local comic shop, or clearly on DC Universe. But this is an Elseworlds Tale, a DC Black Label book that does not take place in main continuity, but it is where the Joker grows out of his insanity, and he's still hyper intelligent like he is as the Joker, except he's like, Batman's worse for Gotham than I am, and he proves legally why he's not to blame for any of his previous crimes, and how Batman is costing Gotham so much money, and way more money than the villains in Gotham are. So he turns the whole city on its head against Batman. Batman's now on the run, and not in a way of like, Gotham's gone evil, but he's like, they're like, no, that makes sense. Like, even though he's an insane man, he's clearly showing us the numbers and the cost, and he's not wrong. It's an amazing story, amazing artwork by Sean Murphy, and it's not often that you get an artist that can also do some heavy writing.
You know what this says about Batman Who Laughs?
I know what's coming.
Who cares?
I like Scott Snyder. I like Jock's artwork. I do think his covers are better than his interiors, and his art did fit this more horror take on the Batman Who Laughs miniseries, but yeah, it was not the strongest miniseries, not one that I felt I needed to buy as a trade.
Batman Who Laughs is not something I ever intend on reading. Dark Knight's Metal was #not for me.
More coming from DC Comics. They have officially announced a release date for yet another release date for Batman 3 Jokers #1. It is set to release on Wednesday, August 26th.
Is this now the third release date?
It's got to be like the 4th or 5th, to be
Oh,
honest
man.
with
I
you.
thought they were like doing a funny thing like 3 Jokers, 3 release dates. Oh.
It's like, God damn it, DC. We waited 2 years for that.
DC Senior VP / Editor-in-Chief Bob Harris said this in a statement.
Quote, from placing orders to on sale, moving Batman 3 Jokers to August will enable more stores to order and sell this incredible story that Jeff and Jason have crafted, end quote.
Do you think the story exists? Do you think he's just saying, oh, they crafted this great, incredible story?
I know pages exist. I've seen them on Instagram.
Well, okay. Originally, this was announced for a fall 2018 release. The 3-issue mini is now a DC Black Label title.
Has the excitement worn off yet on Batman 3 Jokers for you?
I was never excited for Batman 3 Jokers.
Really?
Because I was like, 3 Jokers? The fuck?
I'm still excited for Batman 3 Jokers. I love Jeff Johns. His comics are amazing. Doomsday Clock, I think, was my favorite comic of last year. And the setup to that in Justice League from when Jeff Johns was writing it, and now we're getting the payoff to it. We're seeing that one of the Jokers, or one of the metaphorical Jokers, whatever it ends up being, is the killing of Jason Todd. There's the classic Joker from before all of this murder that we got in the 70s when they changed the Joker into a darker character. And then there's the one that shot Barbara Gordon. And it's or there might even be a more modern one, but we're really going to get our answers at the end, and how each of these characters, I think Jeff Johns said that it was mainly a story of Batman, Barbara, and Jason, and that dynamic between the 3 who are all victims of the Joker, and what kind of story these 3 are going to go through in what could be. I don't think it's going to literally be 3 different Jokers, but who knows? I could be wrong.
I hope it's not 3 different Jokers. I don't know. It hurts my brain. I'll read it, but I'm not like super excited for it.
But it's Jeff Johns. Even if it is, it'll be good.
I know it'll be good, but I don't know.
You can now add that to your subscription, by the way. Batman 3 Jokers did appear in a previous previews catalog before
the previews.
19 shutdowns, but you can add it now. It's already in the system.
Up next, we have my favorite list that we bring to you every single month. We have What's New on Netflix. These are the May 2020 highlights.
First one on this list is Ace Ventura Pet Detective.
Cool.
Get some Jim Carrey in your life.
I remember when there were Taco Bell toys for that.
What?
You didn't know there
that.
were Taco Bell toys?
No.
Yes.
Was one of them Laces Out? Like, does it show?
I don't even remember. I just remember that there were toys and I got one and I was like, cool, it's Elvis. And I thought it was Elvis.
That's right.
For the longest time.
It's a wacky Elvis.
I will Google these toys for you, but I remember them. Like, remember back when Taco Bell Happy Meals were a thing and you got toys?
I remember the Happy Meal or the Taco Bell toys, but we never went as a kid to Taco Bell.
What?
Our thing was McDonald's and Burger King.
No, we were strictly a Taco Bell family.
Well, you got to remember, I grew up in a Mexican American family, so
they have burritos and tacos.
It was kind of
and chalupas and gorditas.
Huge no-no.
You're telling me it's
Bell.
different?
The food was different too, way different.
I know it is. I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, I mean, it was even different back then than it is now in Taco Bell.
Really?
It's way better now, for sure. I can tell you that, because you can actually have soft tortillas, and I don't think you had those back then.
Yeah, we did.
In Taco Bell, They always had the hard ones.
No, we had soft tortillas because
For
I
tacos.
ate them. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I remember eating. We went there every Sunday, and I got my Mexican pizza, and I was a little shit, and I just wanted cheese on it. So I would always try to be sneaky and be like, "No meat," and then they put beans, and I'd be like, "No beans," and then they just put meat. And then one time I was like, "No beans or meat." My dad's like, "No, you gotta have more than just cheese." I just wanted the cheese and the chips.
Now I know where Leo gets it from. He's very much your son, as much as you like to just say he's my clone.
He is your clone. His outsides are you, but his insides are me.
And what matters is on the inside, right?
Exactly.
Next one on this list is Back to the Future 1 and 2. 3 was already on there, so you have 1, 2, and 3 on Netflix.
You can just go binging it.
I've been playing that at the comic shop.
That's awesome.
I play all 3, and then it's time to clock out.
Perfect. That's a great way to pass time. We also have Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
I rewatched this trailer when I saw the Netflix list and I got sad again.
Yeah.
Now in a different way as a parent. And I might rewatch it. I remember it being really good. Kate Blanchett and Brad Pitt, who, if I remember correctly, were originally cast in Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain before he lost all funding to it. And he had to go with Rachel Weisz and Hugh Jackman. So it was kind of cool to see those two work in this movie, because you could have, clearly they like working together and have been wanting to do a project together. And I think Benjamin Button was it for them that year.
I remember really, really liking this movie, but I think I only saw it the once in theaters when we went to go see it. So I would love to see it again. I remember the ending just being so heart-wrenching and fantastic and just full of love, and you really didn't feel satisfied by the end of it, but that was one of the things that just made it so good.
Bringing me back to high school, we have Underworld 1 through 3.
I have only seen trailers of these, and even I was smart enough to be like, no.
They are sci-fi action movies. I would say, like, if you're into, I guess, Blade, or maybe
But didn't they have, like, demons and shit? So they're also fantasy?
Yeah.
Sci-fi fantasy action?
Right. Maybe the Resident Evil movies. If you like those, you'll probably like Underworld. It's like that same crowd, the Hot Topic crowd.
Oh, okay. Okay. That was not me.
Next on this list is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So that's the first one, the original one.
I'm glad we finally looked these up so we don't have to talk for 5 minutes about it.
I didn't add it on the list, but Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is also going on this month.
Oh, well.
So both, but watch this one. Watch Willy Wonka.
Watch the original. Yes, definitely. We also have Jerry Seinfeld, 23 Hours to Kill. This is the second Netflix stand-up special.
I gotta tell you, I watched it and I didn't finish it.
What?
I didn't think it was his best work.
What?
I know.
But it's Jerry Seinfeld.
I know.
You
I
love that
fucking,
man.
I do. And maybe it's because the last stand-up I saw was Louis C.K. Maybe this is not cool to say, but I think Louis C.K. is a better stand-up comedian than Jerry Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld is going to hunt you down. I'm sorry, Jerry.
I know.
These are Daniel's words and not mine. When you have to take one of us out, it's just him.
I will look, Jerry makes better shows. How about that? That's how it can be. He made one of the greatest shows of all time, right? Seinfeld, probably the greatest comedic show. The greatest comedic show of all time. He does Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, which I fucking love.
And I just love the way he points out all this coffee, and he loves coffee, and he's so great.
I can't wait for the next season. Hopefully soon. But if you like his stand-up specials, you can check it out on Netflix. Another one I didn't like either is Robin Williams's. I watched his stand-up in high school, and I really didn't like it.
Danny, you can't.
His movies are also, he's a better comedian on film, I would say. I don't know.
He's going to come back and haunt us now. Oh my God.
Hello.
I just imagine his ghostly face, like, peeking at us. Oh my God. Would it still drip?
Yeah, that's ectoplasm.
Oh my God. Somebody's going to send the mob after you. You got to stop.
Next one on this list, we were just talking about Riverdale. Season 4 is hitting Netflix, and I personally recommend Riverdale. Mm-hmm. Watch Riverdale. Give it a shot. The camera work is amazing. The lighting is incredible, and the show is also good. I
do really like the show. It's just too intense, and we try to watch it before sleep, and then I just have nightmares.
It is not at all like the Archie comics that Steve Geppi enjoys so much.
Although Daniel does like to watch Riverdale and go, when's Archie going to fall over?
Yeah, it has none of the tropes.
No, not a single one. Next on the list, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1 through 3.
Can't wait to play that at the comic shop as well. And that makes sense because I think they're doing that Netflix movie with the original runners of the show. So yeah, you got to have the original material that inspired it in there as well.
I have such a love-hate relationship for that show.
Because of that ending.
But, like, it was so good. There were so many amazing moments. And, like, Uncle Iroh, right, was absolutely fantastic. And especially as a young person, like watching them go through all this, right? Because I was kind of the same age they were when it originally aired. And I was like, yeah, I can relate to them and their anger and their hate and all that bullshit. But definitely the ending was not what it should have been. She should not have ended up with Aang. And there's not been a single anything afterwards where the two of them have been together where I said, yes, that makes sense.
They don't know how to end them. They did the same thing with Korra.
Oh, that's true. Like, and we're lesbians, bye.
Yeah. Next one on this list, we have The Flash Season 6, if you're still keeping up with that.
Next up, we have Uncut Gems. Yeah.
I'm glad I saw it, but I wish I would have known my future and been like, oh, I could have just waited and not paid for it and watched it on Netflix, because I'm not going to pay to watch it again.
I was 30 minutes. I'll never get back.
Yeah, you only watched the ending, right? No, the beginning.
The beginning. I watched like the first 30 minutes and I was like, this is too intense. I gotta go.
Final one here is The Lincoln Lawyer, starring Matthew McConaughey. And I think it was one of those early films where it's like, this guy's fucking serious.
That was the first film. It was both of us. We saw it in theaters. I don't remember why we went to see it in theaters, but it was really the first film where we sat there and said, this guy can actually act. And I don't even know what he did before then. I just knew that he wasn't really that good of an actor.
He was doing romantic comedies, and that Sahara movie, he did that one, which was pretty big.
Yeah, whatever. But then we saw him in this, and we're like, oh, shit. And I don't remember a single thing about this movie except how great he acted in it. And then he went on to he did Mud, didn't he?
Yes.
And Mud was really, really great. And Magic Mike, he just did his best. He did his best in that movie.
Also, True Detectives. He was incredible in that.
That was a really great show.
With Woody Harrelson, Carnage himself.
Definitely check it out. I think we may need to rewatch this one because it's been 12 years.
Since it fucking came out,
It's been a long-ass time.
But that is it for our highlights for the Netflix releases this month. If you want a full list, click on over to Google and type in what's new on Netflix May 2020. It'll pop right up.
But that does wrap up our news for the week. And now we can move into our Patreon shout-outs, our thank yous to everyone who makes the show possible.
We've got 5 shout-outs this week. First one goes out to Jose on Instagram at Kingdom T-shirt.
Jose is selling digital printers for t-shirts in case you want to get started on your own t-shirt business.
He also puts up YouTube videos to show you how he goes about using these printers and how he goes about selling them as well through his website.
That's so cool.
Make sure to follow Jose, who's been a long-time supporter of the podcast, and that's actually how we get our decals out.
Next on the list, we have at Innsmouth Tide.
He's been posting some epic mail calls, including Batman number 227, one of my fucking grails, and that's the Neil Adams recreation of, it was a Bob Kane, I don't know which issue it was specifically, but Batman 227, holy shit, every time I see it at a convention, it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and when we were talking on Twitter, he said he was able to get a pretty decent deal on it.
That's amazing. Next on the list, we have Elizabeth at EP Lifts.
Elizabeth tweeted, quote, Friday for a geek in quarantine. Read Batman and Robin, walked the dog, delivered food to mom, caught up on Harley Quinn, played Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, listening to At Reasons I'm Broke before bed. Hashtag thankful to be healthy and entertained, end quote.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy we were a part of her day. Should we sing lullabies so she can go to sleep a little bit better?
She has trouble sleeping?
It just said she listened to us before bed.
Oh, maybe the show puts her to sleep. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Either way, we're helping.
Yeah, wonderful. Good. I'm glad we could be there to help.
No, she said entertained, though. So it's awesome. It's really, really awesome. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for sending that tweet out. And getting some amazing reading. Fucking Batman and Robin by Tomasi. Some of the best comics I've ever read.
Next on the list, we have Joshua T., whose Instagram is at JDTOS.
He's been catching up on Star Wars comics through this quarantine, so more comic book reading, comics in quarantine. He's been reading Star Wars Omnibus, Knights of the Old Republic, volumes 1 through 3. These are the Dark Horse omnibuses, which are out of print, very hard to find. I still have people asking me for those Knights of the Old Republic comic books, and it seems to be something that Disney is getting ready to draw material from for their movies and or shows.
Now, remind me again, how many comic books are in an omnibus?
It depends on the publisher. It can be something like Saga that has, or Walking Dead that has 48 in one.
Ugh.
And Saga, I believe, is the same because it looks just as thick in the Walking Dead ones.
Where is Saga?
It'll be out in a year and a half.
You tell me that every time.
Yeah, and every time you ask, it's going to be another year and a half. You have not learned.
It doesn't work.
If you don't ask
way.
for a year and a half, it'll release.
No, it won't.
But you or any Saga reader does not have the will for that.
I feel like I've already I've already waited a year and a half since they told us. I feel like the last one released before Leo was birthed.
It's definitely been at least, but they said at least a year and a half.
Okay, well, it's been a year and a half.
Okay, it could be 20 more years and they'd still be fine.
I don't want to wait that long. Don't tell me it'll still be fine.
To finish answering your question, omnibuses could also be shorter, like the Green Lantern omnibus I have up there. I think that's like 25 issues, so it really depends.
Just want Saga. Why are you going to be so cranky about it?
Final shout out this week goes out to Nick F., at Jersey Whisper, and at Nick's Nerd News 1.
In a reply to an article about Joey Whedon wanting to direct another Justice League movie, Nick tweeted, "Yeah, because Justice League went so well," end quote.
Fucking Joey Whedon. Now, the original article was from one I'm not even going to name because they're like the Latino review of comic book movies. Okay. Not very reputable, but still funny to point out, even if, I'm sure if they were to come up to Joey and ask him, he'd say yes, because it's fucking Joey Whedon. Like, let's face it. But yeah, it's not something that it would ever make any kind of fucking money from anyone. Even the MCU sheep who didn't come out for Justice League wouldn't come out for that fucking movie.
Even though it's Joey Whedon, we won't do it.
But thank you so much to Nick F., Joshua T., Elizabeth, Innsmouth Tide, and Jose for your support.
If you too would like your shout out every single month for as little as $1 a month, that's just 25 cents an episode, you too can have your shout out.
Biggest thing you can do also to help the growth of the podcast is tell a friend. Word of mouth is huge when it comes to podcasts. So take a minute if you know your fellow DC fan friend, let them know about the reasons I'm broke available on every podcatcher out there.
All of them?
All the ones worth being on.
All the ones that matter are the ones with us on it.
Any podcatcher that's a podcatcher has us on there.
And if they don't, then they're not really a podcatcher.
They're squares.
They're hip to be square.
Let's head into the final segment of the show. It is the Brocat Block.
Typically, we would have a comic book highlight for you, but of course, there aren't any new comic books right now. So that will be remedied soon.
Next week.
So close. But until then, the Brocat Block is what happened with Daniel and I this week.
Last week, I promised that we would have an interview via thanks to Bobby on Twitter, who got the attention of writer/artist Dustin Hanson for a DC Comics interview to My Video Games Ate My Homework. Unfortunately, the stars did not align for this interview, so that will not be happening, but I wanted to give you all the heads up just in case you were looking forward to that and think that, oh, maybe the episode didn't get downloaded or got lost. That one is not an interview that we'll be doing, but we do wish them the best of luck. That graphic novel is once again called My Video Game Ate My Homework.
But we do have a question here from Bobby at Cuban Slim, who asks, quote, I'm going to try and get through this whole quote. It's a long one, but I'm going to try. It's going to be great. Quote, is it feasible to have the big three and other comic publishers allow a rebate program? A customer buys X amount of that publisher's product. Comic stores allocate the customer an amount of comic book money to spend, like a virtual credit, on back issues or trades from that publisher. Then the local comic book shop sends that info to the publisher to receive rebate money back to compensate for the credit issued to the customer. This would help with the returning books issue as well as move more product. The upside is rather than books being destroyed, they are purchased by a reader. Essentially, the publishers would not have to worry about returnability since the product can be moved/sold and the local comic book shop isn't trapped with extra stuff. Thoughts? End quote.
That I don't think is feasible, to answer the first part of the question, just because it does involve a lot of moving parts. It involves the customer, it then involves the comic shop, which goes back to the publisher and then back to the comic shop and then back to the publisher. So there's a lot there that simply I don't think is workable for comic shops as a kind of rebate. Now, if they were to come up with something that's direct consumer to publisher, kind of like they did those mail-in things back in the 90s and the 80s, but obviously it'd all be virtual. If there was a way to like take a picture of your receipt and send it on over to their local comic shop, I think that is more feasible, but not this plan in particular where it would take back issues out of the comic shop for the comic reader.
I would definitely agree with that. I think it's a really neat concept and it's very well thought out from what Bobby presented of how it would all happen, but definitely a lot of moving parts because you would really have to keep track of, okay, these people purchase these things, and for a smaller comic shop, maybe that could happen. But for a larger one, there's just no way. Like, you would have to have somebody full-time just keeping track of these things and sending it in to these publishers to get things back. So definitely if the consumer could send something to the publisher, just like you said, right? Here's my SKUs, or here's the secret code inside my book that I purchased, or something like that. And then the publisher could then send it directly to the comic shop because they could say, here's the one I shop at, and you come in and it's in your box because it came in, with your books for that week. Yeah, then you can make it happen. But again, I don't think publishers would just rather return it and be done with it.
Yeah, and comic shops as well. As long as they can make them returnable, that's the key right there. We need to get more and more. We need to get fucking Marvel on board for the returnability. That's the biggest issue right there. But they're still, even during this pandemic, they weren't willing to budge on that issue. So goes to show you once again, they're proving the kind of publisher that they are. But at least we're getting the indie publishers that stepped up first, then DC Comics, which has been doing returnability even before the pandemic on some of their series debuts and some of their Black Label books, which is huge. And they're also doing it for the books solicited during the next month and a half now of books releasing. So little by little, hopefully this means that we'll continue getting that assistance from publishers, and maybe they'll find even that they're moving more books this way too.
So thank you, Bobby, so much for your question. You still haven't missed a week. I have Palpa approved the weeks where maybe you just submitted it a few days late.
A rebate of sorts.
Submitted directly to the Palpa.
Let's close out the show with what you've been doing this week, Palpa Kelly.
This week was really good. I've been spending some time trying to take care of myself because I have some beach days planned and I am not beach ready. This body is definitely, the quarantine 15 has hit me. Which is where you gain 15 pounds in quarantine.
Is that what they're calling it?
Yes. What are they calling it? They're calling it the Rona 15, but I like the quarantine 15 better because then it rhymes, right? Yeah. So I've been exercising every single day and trying to change my diet a little bit and just take some better care of myself and the environment. I did tweet that out. I've been shopping local produce. I found a farm not far away where the produce is like just the same price as the grocery store. And yeah, I have to make 2 different trips between the grocery store and here. But like, I just order my veggies online and they call me when it's ready and I go pick it up.
And you're supporting a local farm that way too.
I am. And it's pretty cool because you pull up to the farm and you can see all their greenhouses. You get to see their hydroponics they have set up. It's just, a very cool setup, and to understand really where my produce has come from, and to understand, the only gas that was spent getting it to me was the gas that I use, and I would have used that to go to the grocery store anyway. So been trying to do that this week. Work has been really, really, really good. And of course I know that it all goes up and down, yes. Right? And I'm preparing for the moment where it doesn't continue to go up. But we are area leaders in a lot of metrics at this point. And so when we talk about area, I have my district and then you have the area, which is bigger than the district. So essentially, if you were to take a slice out of Central Florida from coast to coast, all that area, we are leaders in some things in my store. Like, I'm talking highest numbers in those metrics, which is really, really incredible and amazing. And I continually tell my team, this is you guys, this is not me. Like, don't feel like it's me. They compared me to Captain Jack Sparrow the other day, but I'm like, maybe. No, I'm the captain of this ship, right? I'm telling you the direction that you need to go, but you guys are the ones that are doing all the hard work, and I'm only there 30% of the time, right? You guys are the ones driving it forward. And I don't want them to lose sight of that. But it's been really, really encouraging that even though all of this is going on and I had some terrible weeks and it's been very difficult, the last 6 months that I've been in this store to get to this point, to finally see it be where my vision was 6 months ago is incredibly encouraging. And my boss comes in every day and he's like, "You're doing great things. Talk more on conference calls." And I'm like, "Oh," because I feel like I'm bragging when I do that. And so it's very difficult for me. And his whole point is, well, no, we learn from each other. So how are they going to learn from you if they don't know what you're doing? And I'd be like, I don't want to sit there and go, I'm the fastest out the window because of this. Like, then it's just, anyway, I need to get over that hurdle because I know that it's important and learn how to say those things in a way where it can be a teaching moment rather than, look how great we are.
Yeah, or this is what we do. It might work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So it's been really good. I thankfully have had a break from school for a little bit. So haven't had homework at night, which has also allowed me to focus on my workouts. And I'm sore all the time and I fall asleep in like 5 minutes after I lay down. But I will be beach ready. Maybe.
And we'll visit the beach ants.
The beach ants.
We'll take a picture this year for sure of the beach ants.
We have to. I hope they're around.
On my end, it's been more prepping for our first new comic book day in months at this point. So we're getting ready for that. I am reminding everyone that it is going to be a lighter couple of months as publishers get back into the swing of things, because it's not going to be, hey, new comic book day, here's all the books. It's here's a couple of books, and next week here's a couple more books. And it's going to continue like that, where it's going to be a slow rollout of titles. So don't be surprised if you go to your local comic shop and you have fewer titles than you normally are used to, or even none some weeks, especially because, as I pointed out, DC doesn't have massive titles the first couple of weeks, and it's not, I think, until like week 4 of New Comic Book Day that you really start seeing the big hitters. So just a heads up. But I'm still happy that there will be new product in some form coming into the store. So that's been awesome. The support has been great. And I think I might have mentioned last week, but there's the plaza itself that we're in, that's getting packed. So it's kind of crazy to see a ton of cars out there. People are definitely out and about. They're ready to shop, and we're ready to help, get the latest books out into boxes and into as many hands as possible. And then on my personal end, I've been wrestling with the new OS update on the computer on our Mac. So it disabled a bunch of programs that I already had, and I was doing it to try to get ready for this Release the Snyder Cut project that I'm helping host with. And thankfully last night, Manu and Millennial Mike were huge in coming on Zoom and helping me run some tests on recording for that Release the Snyder Cut project. So essentially that's going to be providing a voice to those in the movement that are actively involved, but maybe don't have their own platform or channel to talk about themselves and talk about how they're excited for the Snyder Cut of Justice League. And I think I'm pretty much all set to go, but the one thing I'm missing now on the computer is Photoshop. And I'll have it in some form by the time this episode releases, because I need to have the graphics done for the episode, not the Snyder Cut one, but for this one that you're listening to.
Right.
So that's been kind of a little discouraging, but it's worth it for the project. And yeah, it's a little frustrating, but it's all right.
But how many years previously did you have it?
Several years I had Photoshop, and I'm very grateful for that. And I don't understand what you're getting at. But that's mainly been it. That's mainly been it for me this week. I think next week I'm excited for whatever book might end up in our comic box. And even if it's not a new number 1, I think we're going to have to really review it and see, Deceased, Dead Planet. That's going to be our big one for next week. It's the final part to the 3-issue miniseries.
Awesome. Definitely have to check that out. Something that I forgot, Leo, when I got haircuts today. That was great.
Ooh, that's a luxury right now.
That was. Leo needed it way more than I did. But then, I'm not going to lie. I only go get my hair cut like once a year. And I know that it should be every 3 months for the health of my hair, and at least every 6 months. But my hair just grows, right? And I trim my bangs when I need to, and it goes up in a ponytail at work. So I went in and I sat down, and she goes, well, your hair is long. And I'm like, Yeah. And she goes, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't even care. Right. It goes up in a ponytail. Like, I know that there's some heat damage. She didn't mention anything about the heat damage, which I always have because I used to blow dry and straighten my hair every single day. Now I just straighten it and sleep on it wet, which I'm sure is also not the right thing to do, but whatever. And so she didn't mention anything about it. And I asked her afterwards, I was like, oh, was there a lot of heat damage? Cause I'm doing these different things. And she's like, yeah, it was pretty brittle. It was pretty bad. And I was like, oh, well, see you in a year. Bye.
So getting haircuts prevents that?
Yeah, because you're trimming the ends. So what happens is it gets brittle, it breaks, and then the hair rips all the way up the follicle.
Gotcha.
Because you get split ends, and so that's what split ends do. And then the follicle's like dead, and it gets all frizzy. And like if you see, I used to have it really bad. I don't anymore. But like when my hair dries naturally, you see a lot of frizz.
I have that like crazy.
Yeah,
now.
well,
Yeah.
it's damaged.
I'm damaged goods.
Damaged.
Damaged.
Your hair's singing to you in the night.
Now I kind of like it. I think that's it for my week, though. Do you have anything else before we close out?
Oh, Leo went through a car wash. Sorry.
For the first time?
For the first time. It was a big week for him. He's doing great. He still won't talk. He's starting to try and say 2 words together, though, so I think that's improvement. One day he's just going to wake up and be speaking, but I guess we haven't given a really great Leo update in a while.
Yeah, not specifically for Leo, no.
Right. I know there are some brokettes who are very invested in this child.
Some are, and it seems to be like some that don't have kids don't care, and the ones that do have kids, they're like, no, I get it.
100%. He's 2.5 and very much about he gets to decide what he's going to do and when he's going to do it, and mom and dad and anybody else do not get to determine that for him. So definitely a challenge in parenting on, okay, let's give him choices. Or what's the fine line between, hey, I need you to do this right now because I told you, and how much independence do I want to give you? And then he goes over to the grandparents and fusses a little bit, and they give him whatever he wants. So it's fine. I guess that's just how life is supposed to be.
The only thing I can think of now to end it is, did I talk about Rebel Clash, the latest set for Pokemon? So that one did release to local game stores and to local comic shops if yours does carry Pokemon product. But unfortunately, it went through without a pre-release. So we have a bunch of pre-release kits to go through, and Pokemon is working with comic shops and game shops to help with the next set and kind of offset the potential loss that may come out of Rebel Clash. And I've talked to Bobby about it, and he does think it is going to be a dead set completely. If I'm able to move through it, that's going to be huge for us, because with the next set coming out, they're working with stores again to help with that profit loss ratio there. But that's one thing that if you are at all a Pokemon collector, they're still coming out. They're still getting the Pokemon boosters, they're getting the Elite Trainer boxes, and the build and battle kits. So that's something that if you're at all a Pokemon collector, and I know we do have some Pokemon card followers, the latest set's still released as scheduled for the most part to wherever it is that you normally get it from.
So go pick it up.
Yeah, that's the main message, right? All right, I think that is all that we have for this week, Brocat Core. Make sure to follow us on everywhere we're at. There's a link up on thereasonsimbroke.com. It'll have our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram, our LinkedIn, everywhere.
But as always, thank you so much for tuning in, whether it's your first episode or your 403rd. I am Emperor Palpa-Kelly.
And I am Ninja Boy Daniel.
And Brocat Core.
All will be well.
Since this quarantine started, I have a new tradition when I sign into Facebook. I don't know if the same thing's happening for you, but I feel like I'm on Facebook more, and there's more political posts just because of everything going on, right?
Sure.
But every time I sign onto Facebook, I unfriend at least one person. Are you experiencing the same thing? Are you like, it's time to clean house?
No, but that's because I cleaned house for a long time. I was just cutting, I want to delete my Facebook, but I need it because of the store and because of the Facebook does not let you control a Facebook page without an account.
Gotcha.
So I've got all my friends already down to the bare minimum already. And I rarely update the thing anyway, because I'm more focused on, Facebook isn't huge for me. I like Twitter more. I like Instagram more. Those are kind of more my things. But no, I haven't experienced any of that.
Well, I signed in the other day and realized I had like 400 friends. And I said, I do not know 400 people. But it's just been a lot of political stuff. And there's even one person who's like, if you don't like my comments, just keep scrolling. And I'm like, I don't like your comments, so I'm just going to delete you. So I just don't even, because I get very upset by some of the things that people are saying, particularly on like the rants, raves, and reviews page.
Right.
But then I always have to remember, because of where I work, a lot of people know who I am. So I can't even comment on that page anymore and call people out on their shit, because they're going to be like, hey, you're that manager of that coffee shop. And I'll be like, oh my God.
Rant.
Exactly.